All right. So, okay, the content of this meeting is being sent to a third party. Okay, I feel like we're streaming. Okay.
Are we streaming? Are we live? Should I stop picking my nose?
Yes, you should. You should do that. You
Okay.
should do that. I am, and I just saw the notification on my phone, and
Boom.
I that it says live right here. And yeah, this is all right. All righty then. Okay, so it's almost 1 p.m., but at least we got stuff set up. Let's see. I have gallery view going. I feel like that's the right thing, right? It
Yeah,
should be
way
right.
better.
Okay. All right,
Because your
cool.
reactions are really what makes this show fun to watch. I know some people are only listening, but if you get a chance to watch people, Janet's reactions are what make it funny.
Look, I am trying to be okay with wearing these contacts right now. So it's whoo, can I see? Can I see? Can I see? Let me put my desk up a little bit. That'll probably help slightly. So um yeah, this is a thing, trying to get all these windows and whatnot. This is why it's so good to just have multiple screens if you're able to. So it is 1 p.m. Hello, hello. Good day to you all. Welcome to Reflect, Recalibrate. We are your lovely lady artivists, Janet E. Dandridge and Danny Snyder. This is part one of the Design Advocacy Collection. All right. Yeah. So, part one of our new formats for Reflect, Calibrate, the podcast on the genealogy of artivism.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah. Excitement. Excitement.
It is exciting. It's been a long time. So, and I get a lot of fuel from these conversations. It refuels me. Reflect, recalibrate, and refuel.
Oh, that's good. That is
Yeah.
good. I
Yeah,
like that, Danny.
I do. I get like, since we're going with the car metaphors, I'm ignited. When I leave these conversations, I'm like, oh, I want to go do things.
Right.
So I miss these conversations. I want to do more of
Yeah.
them this season.
Oh, we are. Oh, we are. I'm very excited. I think it's just one of those things that when it has to cook a little bit more for us to come back and be able to have those igniting conversations and
Yeah.
enjoy it, I'm
Hmm.
like, cool,
Hmm.
you sometimes you got to step back. So I'm glad we're back. I'm glad we're back
Hmm.
and able to get the chats going again about these wonderful folks who are artivists who are
Hmm.
creating artivism.
There's a lot happening right now. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, in the world of politics and also in the world of activism and the world of war and peace and some people still trying to hold on to the dream. Yeah.
Hold on to what dream?
I don't know. I feel like a lot of people I talk to right now, and it could be the area that I live in, but so much burnout from the election, but also people are really, really personally affected by what's happening in Israel and in Gaza and in Ukraine and elsewhere.
Yeah.
Those are not the only places that are dealing with extreme violence and horror. So I think that those activists who are really holding on and still making art and triumphing, it's very inspiring to me. And I do feel, just even as an observer, sometimes I feel a little bit burnout, even as an observer. I haven't been making like any art right now, but I want to because I feel like I'll go crazy if I don't. But that's a whole like me mental issue. But the people who I'm watching who are still carrying on and being positive and hopeful, and I don't even know if I want to say optimistic, because sometimes the word optimistic sounds like it's unrealistic. And I've always tried to encourage my students and artists that I work with to be visionaries, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had lots of conversations with my students, and we had a tough conversation the other day in relation to who I share with them as artivists. And on this
Mhm.
particular day, I shared Pussy Riot.
That's so funny. I was thinking about them. That's perfect example for design advocacy. Yeah.
Yes, right.
Sorry.
I shared a Louisiana channel broadcast with them. And afterwards, we talked about their strategies and talked about how the representative who was there, her first name is Maria Alkayani, or is her last name, and I apologize if I'm saying it incorrectly, which I am. Uh, but talking about how she reflects on how it feels to be Russian, how it feels to create the work that they do in Russia against Putin's regime, and I'm using her words, and how the international community has to do more when it comes to Ukraine, and how we as a country, meaning the government, is complicit in what is happening internationally in various places. And in particular, she was talking about Ukraine. And so afterwards, with my students, it was a conversation about what to do and how do you manage, how do you deal with, how do you combat, how do you live through violence. And one of the students said that he has friends who are Palestinian, who he would say or would think that, how could someone say, do not utilize violence when violence is being used against you?
Mhm, mhm,
Then another student shared, well, you know, radical nonviolence is
mm,
how we can shift the relationship in the world. Yet the thought of not reacting to someone doing you physical harm is so foreign, because
mhm,
you want to react, you want to respond, you want to protect yourself and your
mhm,
family and your friends, while knowing that if it keeps on going back and forth, nothing will change. But when you are being absolutely oppressed and you don't have the support, the military support in this
mhm,
instance, to fight against a monolithic power, what do you do?
mhm,
So I believe when people are in other countries such as the USA and protesting against genocide, against what is going on in Gaza, that's what we can do. We have to do what we can do. But that conversation was difficult because you have to think about the people's lives. You have to think about your life. You have to think about how it's going to impact you, how it's going to continue to impact them, how it's going to impact the world, and what power you have. And I think that
mhm,
sometimes folks start to feel depressed. Well, not think, I know,
mhm,
because they feel like, well, I'm one person. What can I do? But one person can do a lot.
mhm, mhm,
You might not be able to stop the weapons that are being supplied, but you can continuously make noise, which can help
mhm,
in stopping the
mhm,
supply of weapons, as an
mhm,
example, right?
mhm. Yeah, I think like like I said earlier, a lot of people who I talk to who are really emotionally in a negative way impacted by the news, and to the point where they're kind of like me. Sometimes they have to go a week without listening to the news. And there's a sense of powerlessness and what's the word I'm looking for? Like for example, in regards to climate change, how people are feeling really overwhelmed by climate change and feeling at a loss for how to, like you said, how to do anything. What can one person do? That overwhelming feeling. I know there's a word for it and I can't think of it, but
Hmm.
I that's why I'm very inspired by young people, like children. I'm talking about like children who are like trying to go to DC, trying to go to the Capitol and protest for climate change. That to me is amazing. I'm like, okay, that's a whole kind of hope and vision and belief. And again, I don't know if I want to use this word optimism, but for, in relation to design advocacy, as far as thinking about strategies, that was something I was always taught as an activist is like, get yourself in the news. Do something that's going to get yourself in the news. That is your objective. So whether it's wearing a ridiculous costume, making some goofy puppet, or, whatever it is that's going to get you on the news to help raise this awareness, but also I was also taught, raising awareness is not enough. So when we're looking at design advocacy, when we're looking at like design, we're looking at billboards, when we're looking at posters, when we're looking at like zines, maybe from like Riot Girls, what what are they doing beyond raising awareness? Like what is the bigger overall goal, strategy, tactic? So I think that, for example, with zines and with Riot Girls, there was a lot of community. It's like, okay, we're going to raise awareness of certain issues regarding feminism, but how are we going to help unite feminists together to solve this issue, right? And that was like within the United States too. But yeah, across seas, it gets harder.
Well, I am not familiar with the zines for Riot Girls.
Hmm.
Um, but when you brought up design and naming different types of design, that's the question, right? Well, what is design? Because you brought up the spectacle of wearing some sort of wild, ridiculous,
Yeah.
outrageous outfit, right? As design, or as in a publication, a zine or e-zine, or
Hmm.
as design, or the language you use as design. So that's my question when it comes to design advocacy. um like what specifically are we talking about? Or are we talking about all of those things? Are all of those
Hmm.
things design? Because we know that we have genres that they fall under, right? Like
Right.
clothes, like fashion, you know what I'm saying? Um, uh, Billboards, like I don't know, public relations, or uh, you know, I don't, I guess marketing, right?
Hmm.
And 2D artworks,
Hmm.
visual arts. So does design advocacy include all of those things?
Hmm. Hmm. It's a good question. I feel like a lot of the lines could be blurred, but in my mind, when I think design, I think graphic design. So my first thought is like logos. It's like images that have been created predominantly on a computer. They could have been printed. I guess, yeah, actually, that's a good question. Like, because I also think of like different what's it called? When I can wheat paste? Yeah, different
Yeah,
like
wheat
types of
pasting,
posters and wheat pasted. Those might have been
like that
originated
dude
from,
JR in Paris.
yeah, they might have been, those images might have originated from a painting that's been replicated, not necessarily something designed on a computer. So I don't really know.
Yeah,
Maybe we should have
yeah.
looked that up. Like, what is the definition of
Uh,
graphic design? I don't really know. But to me, when I think design advocacy, though, I do think mass production. It's not this one image, it's in a gallery. I'm thinking billboards, posters. I'm thinking, for example, at protests, all these different signs that have been mass produced that people are carrying, shirts. Like even when we interviewed Studio 23 and how they were at protests quickly screen printing shirts for people and bags and signs with the same image. So yeah, I think I guess I associate it with mass production, but I don't think it's the same as propaganda. I do feel like there's a big, big, big difference between that. Well, maybe not a big, big difference, but when it comes again down to strategy and objective, is the objective to inspire change, or is the objective to reinforce a fear, for example?
Mm. And you know what? I am taking notes.
Okay, teach. I should probably take notes too. I'm drinking a lot of
I think
coffee.
it's
I'm
good for
moving,
us
my brain's
because
moving slow.
because we can reflect back on it and then
Recalibrate.
exactly. So you mentioned graphic design, the power of the internet. So I utilized my mobile phone,
Mhm.
and according to Wikipedia,
Mm.
graphic design is a profession, academic discipline, and applied art whose activity consists in projecting visual communications intended to transmit specific messages to social groups with specific objectives. Graphic design is an interdisciplinary branch of design and of the fine arts, interdisciplinary. Its practice involves creativity, innovation, and lateral thinking using manual or digital tools where it is usual to use text and graphics to communicate visually.
That's basically what I said.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it like just what
If you
we're
gave me
asking.
an hour, I could have written that, but
I'm just saying, Danny,
yeah,
this
yeah.
is what you actually said. Wikipedia
No,
just
I mean,
took
it's
it
way, yeah.
from what you said.
Whoever helped write that Wikipedia page, thank you. Thank you for your efforts on Wikipedia. Yeah, yeah. So I think,
Interdisciplinary. I
yeah,
think
that's what
that's the
we
key
do.
to what we were
Yeah.
asking. It's all of those things. And then it says right here, according to Wikipedia, fine arts, and a branch of design. So I feel like, when we talk to a graphic designer, then we'll be able to delve a little bit deeper into what graphic design is. However, for me and for us, I think we are feeling like design includes all these things, just like with
Yeah.
Pussy Riot.
Hmm.
The way they wore or wear brightly colored
Hmm.
clothing,
Hmm.
to your example, right?
Hmm.
Brightly colored clothing to attract attention, neon
Hmm.
bright
Hmm.
clothing to attract attention. And then it's not only about, I think you said, not only about what you say, right? Or the design is about what you do, your action, how
Right,
you
right,
follow that up, right? So
right.
then once they have this design of the costumes that they will be wearing, they put that together with how they're going to demonstrate that in the public. And then they utilize music, for example, to get the
Hmm.
language, that the lyrics, the text out
Hmm.
to global audiences. And then they follow it up with having conversations with
Hmm.
different people in different positions,
Hmm.
politically, socially, um, within their country and in other countries.
Hmm.
That's artivism.
Right. I actually, that's something I talk a lot about in that I've just talked a lot about in general, but particularly in the book that I wrote, applying the hero's journey to artivism as a ritual and thinking about these different states of ritual. So at the beginning, for example, when the viewer is entering this performance space with the Pussy Riot, for example, you know, how they're entering from this preliminal stage into this liminal stage. This is a stage where things can change and transformation occurs. And then when they leave that space and they go back home and go back to their lives, now as the hero of their own journey, they have this Excalibur. They have, or Excalibur, that's not the word I'm looking for. What's the word I'm looking for? They have this, oh, give me a second. Give me a second. What's the word? Um, it's gonna come to me. The the hero, he takes with him, not the Excalibur, but he takes with him this knowledge. He takes with him this new information back to his, I shouldn't say his, their space. And what are they going to do now with this new information? And if there is this follow-up, if there is still this relationship between the artist and the viewer, to help make sure that now there's a new action, that there's a new cycle, a new hero's journey, where the idea is that how can we transform the viewer into an actor, into someone who's going to take action, an activist. And it could be as small as like, how can I get me as the artivist, how can I get a viewer to go look something up, go do a little bit more research on that thing. Or how can I get the viewer to actually maybe sign a petition, for example. Or create their own artivism. That would be like a whole other level. So this is another thing I talk about, is like these different stages of call to action, these different entries into action, something that's a small ask versus a big ask. Now you go make your own art and you quote unquote raise awareness, but do more than that, obviously, and get yourself in the news, for example. So it's like this cyclical kind of structure.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you protect yourself when you do something that you know can possibly cause yourself harm related to the design of your work? How do you protect yourself? I think that's a big question with the examples of artists that, you know, we just shared. According to Pussy Riot, it's like, yeah, the possibility is there, but that's no reason to stop. And that goes back to activists and advocates who may think, man, I am one person, but then they know, well, I do have power and I can use it this way and I can effect change from being one person, joining other individuals in a collective voice, make change. Yet, realistically, how do you protect your body from harm? And I think of that because in my performance work, I know that I am doing sometimes actions that some people may take offense to. So how do I preemptively create a situation where I can feel safe and I can feel that my audience is safe, or at least a bit safer or a bit more informed, you know? So designing the situation so that there is a level of safety, right? And there's organizations that help people with that. And I always think about Cop Watch, you know, trying to de-escalate when something seems like it could be moving in a violent or adverse direction, right? So design, how do you protect yourself when you put that sort of design out there?
I don't know, especially if you're putting up designs illegally, which I have done. Don't recommend. There are some pictures somewhere on the internet of me wheat pasting in the middle of the night in DC and messed up and feeling real cool, like a real badass. But yeah, no, it was a little dodgy. Yeah, no, I personally don't know if I can really speak well on this because I have not put myself in too many situations that were where I felt like they would escalate into violence, like particularly like with police. That's what I'm thinking of first. Um, a lot of the protests that I've participated in, or different acts of protest I've participated in, there was that threat, there was that possibility, but um, they were very well organized and had, like you said, certain kind of reinforcements and protections. So I
But
remember though, I had a friend back in Austin who went up to, oh gosh, I'm sorry, my brain. Oh, and I remember the word. It's elixir, by the way.
oh, okay.
Elixir.
Not
But
Excalibur.
yeah,
Elixir.
not Excalibur.
Elixir.
Oh my God. But yeah, no, I had a friend who went up north to participate. I can't remember the name of the city right now, the name of the town, to participate in some protests on indigenous lands in relation to pipelines, and were literally handcuffing themselves and chaining themselves to pipelines, and were getting arrested, and it was very, very, very unsafe. And my friend actually brought her daughter, who was very young at the time, like I think she was like 14. And
Mm,
oh, that
mm,
really concerned me. I was like, if you
mm,
want to go, that's fine. But I felt I would never, if that was my child, I was like, no way. Like there will be a time where you can do these things, but right now I don't know. I wouldn't feel comfortable with that. But that's hard. That's hard. That's hard because I was always a punk ass growing up. So like I know
mm.
me. If I had a daughter, I know she'd be a punk ass too. But
She would
um
probably be the opposite.
yeah. Oh,
That's
maybe,
that's how it
maybe
works, right?
she'd like, yeah, I don't know. But it's, to me, it felt like a lot of times when I look at these protests, I'm like, okay, I understand the tactic here and I understand the objective. I just don't know. And I don't know if I'm the right person to judge, but I was like, I'm just not always sure if that's the best tactic and if that's the best objective, because
Mm,
there's there's people who are going to get hurt and there's people who are going to die, and I'm like, is that worth these lives? I don't
mm,
know.
yeah.
So when it's not a safe space, I've been hesitant to participate. Like I remember my friend, she tried real hard to get me to go up, and I felt even a little judged, a little like, okay, you talk a lot of talk, but you're not going to walk this walk. And I was like, I was a little worried too of what it might do with my teaching job if I were arrested, like
Mm,
what that might do to my
mm,
ability to get hired in the future. I haven't explained why I have this on my record.
mm,
So
mm,
I didn't participate, and I still, think a lot about that. But for me, that is a big thing for me, is making sure that when I am facilitating an action, that it is a safe space. Yeah, I'm like you in that regard. Like I do want it, whether it's something small and seems low, low stakes, or something really big in public where you never know who could show up. Like
yeah, you don't.
yeah, like honestly, I live in an area where everywhere I go, Trump sign, Trump sign, Trump sign, Trump sign. People on their cars, they love their guns. All these like stickers about loving their guns, and I'm just like, what is going to happen in this area
Mm,
if Trump is not elected? Like, I'm scared about that. And
mm.
and I don't know. I don't
Yeah, fear.
know.
Fear, like you brought up. It, fear plays a big role in the decisions that we make that will impact not only ourselves but other people. You want to maintain your job because you have to pay your bills.
Hmm.
You have to put food on the table.
Yeah.
You have to do A, B, and C to survive in this world. So, am I going to take the risk to support this cause in this way?
Hmm.
And I think it definitely is up to the individual, obviously, and that there are other ways to contribute. There are other ways to activate spaces. There are other ways to be an advocate because everybody is not cut out to do everything. So
Mm-mm.
you not going, I'll say that was fine. You didn't want to
Mhm.
go, you chose not to go. Your friend did with her daughter. And there's others who would go and bring
Mhm.
friends and family. And then there's others who would stay away. And they
Mhm.
would then do other things, hopefully, to help,
Mhm.
even if
Mhm.
it's something like, I don't know, calling uh, the politicians that represent your district or your state,
Mhm.
whatever it might be, or wheat pasting
Mhm.
information so that people will know what's going on, so that it's not put or forgotten. Doing some type of advocacy that is effective, I
Mhm.
think, is important. Some type of advocacy that will help, right?
Right.
You don't always have to be an activist where you go and you activate the spaces,
Yeah.
because again, I just want to reiterate, everybody is not going to do everything or be able to do everything. I mean,
Right.
that's just plain and
Right.
simple. So I wouldn't expect for everyone to do the same things in the same way to support a cause. Yet, I would hope that we do something to
Yeah.
support causes that are significant to all of us living in a just world, a
Mhm.
clean earth,
Yeah.
you know,
Please.
in harmony, and love, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
and the thing is, even with design, even if your body isn't physically present and you're doing that wheat pasting, you can actually have harm done to you because of the signs that you put up. People
Right.
can
Right.
investigate who did this and find
Right.
them, especially
Right.
with the technology that we have now called
Right.
the internet, and everyone's information is everywhere. It's
Mhm.
not that difficult. So
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
like we are always in a space of potential harm. And that sounds horrible. But I think simultaneously, we're always in a space of potential love.
Mhm.
So, how do we negotiate that so that love outweighs and is used more often? And I'm not talking about tainted love, I'm talking
Mhm.
about healthy love
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
used to design spaces and places
Right.
that are just
Right.
and not harmful,
Yeah, and that's again, that's kind of going back to what I was saying when we were first coming on, is like when I do get a glimpse of something, maybe on Instagram or Facebook, of someone doing something positive and still having that hope and still spreading love. And sometimes, like, I love what you said, like radical nonviolence. Sometimes it is just unbelievably radical nonviolence, but it's rare. I do think it's rare. And it's why here's something. Okay, this might be a little bit off topic, but I do
Yeah,
have something.
yeah.
There's something I've been thinking a lot about lately.
Okay.
Um, I love Dolly Parton, and I love that she is actually trying to stay the frick out of politics, and she's really trying to just spread love.
Mm.
And this one interview I heard with her, when this guy was trying to pressure her so much into saying, like, are you going to vote for Trump? Are you going to vote for Trump? He wanted to so badly know who she was going to vote for and what she thought of Trump. And she said, honestly, you really want to know what I think? And she got mad because he kept bugging her about it and wouldn't let it go. He was like, I think we should all pray for him, because I can't imagine waking up and being one of the most hated men on the planet. And I was like, mind blown. Like, so, but it really
Pray
felt
for him.
genuine. It really felt genuine and sincere, of like, she really
Mm-hmm.
just wants to pray for everyone and love everyone.
Mm.
And she really just wants to bring people together. And that's what's cool. You go to her show, there's like cowboys and and some redneck cowboys, and then there's drag queens. And I'm like, I don't know how you got this to happen, Dolly, but that's amazing to me. That is a superpower, in my opinion. So when I see, because my friend asked me about this recently, it was actually it wasn't super recently, but my friend Natasha, who helped me with that Studio 2-3 episode, Natasha Muller, shout out to her. She
Yeah.
um she asked me, she's like, well, what do you think about these people who are trying to get like just regular everyday people, you could say, who are trying to get famous people to use their platforms to promote one party or to promote an issue like um, in Palestine, for example, or in Ukraine. And I, the pressure that some famous people are undergoing right now, I don't know if it's totally fair.
Hmm.
And I keep thinking about if I was Dolly Parton or just Danny Snyder 50 years from now, just like famous artivist. I
Right,
don't know how I
exactly.
got there, but I
Yeah.
did something. And people pressuring me to take a certain side, and especially on an issue where maybe I'm, not on a certain side. Um, I wonder how I would respond to that. That's a lot. That's a lot of pressure. And yeah. So that's something I've been thinking a lot about. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
That's why they call it the price of fame, the
Right.
price of fame. When you have a global platform, you have to be able to manage global thoughts, ideas, consequences, all of that. I think I agree with the fact that there is pressure on the celebrities. There, it looks like it could be because they have the platforms and, they're being asked the questions consistently to make it known their private thoughts and opinions. Yet, again, the price of fame. You know that when you get into a place of celebrity, this is what's going to go down. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
that it's right for people to pressure you. However, I think when you get into that position, more often than not, you are prepared and ready to be able to handle that sort of pressure.
I
And
hope so.
you have a certain amount of responsibility because you have that platform,
Yeah.
you have that privilege
Hmm.
that you have earned.
Hmm.
And so, understanding how to use that platform and knowing that your voice makes a difference
Hmm.
is part of the job. It's part of the job. That's how I feel. I am not in that position, so I can't speak from the experience,
Hmm.
but I would imagine, knowing who I am now, that when I get to a place where I am a celebrity or internationally known by everyone, a household name, for
Hmm.
example, I'm going to be like, "Whew, okay, this is what have been thinking about and preparing for. So, all
Right.
right, let me just let me just get ready. let me
Hmm.
no no let me go ahead and pull out what I already had to be ready for this."
Yeah. 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 I guess my concern is like certain celebrities who are coming out with certain opinions or promoting certain things. And I wonder how much they've researched it or how much of a team they have that they trust who's researched it,
Mm,
how much of it's genuine and authentic. I do
mm,
wonder about that,
mm.
but it's,
The design of your team.
yeah. And again, this goes into another kind of issue of like,
Mm,
you know, what can a person do? Like these different levels of points of entry, like maybe a small ask being like, just make this post on Facebook and help spread this word, right? But
mhm.
at the same time, someone's like, oh, I'm going to change my profile pic to this image and I'm going to feel like I'm an activist and I've done enough. I've done my job. And so there's a lot of this performance, right? There's a lot of, I think, celebrities too who are performing. And I again wonder how authentic it is. and I really hope it is. But a lot of times, again, it's not positive messaging that I see. It feels very negative. And maybe it's because of the critique. Maybe that's why it comes to me as being very negative. Because again, I just don't feel like I see a lot of examples. When I do, it's very refreshing, but I don't see a lot of examples of really positive, like again, radical nonviolence, protesting, activism
Hmm.
that, sometimes I do wonder, I was like, whatever happened to like the people putting flowers in guns? Like, where did those people go? Like, where are my hippies putting flowers into weapons? Like, I sometimes like wonder, is that still happening? Like,
Hmm.
and I know it
Hmm.
is, but I don't see it in the media like I see the fear mongering,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And even
Media.
in my own news feeds of like where I'm just following pretty much just artists, I
Hmm.
see a lot of, if I can say, I don't know if I can say this on YouTube, bitching. I just see a lot of bitching,
Hmm.
which is
Yeah.
also fair. It's also fair. Like the rants and
Not a
vents, I'm
lot,
like, that's fair. That's
not
fair.
a lot of productive action, you know?
Yeah.
I don't, it's funny because even with the idea of celebrity, I try to not separate celebrity from people who are not celebrities. I'm like, we're all people,
Yeah.
and these people just so happen to have wealth, financial wealth, oftentimes, right? Because some celebrities is like they bankrupt or something happens and they don't have anything.
Hmm.
Or corporations F them over
Yeah.
and take their money. Um, but they're people.
Yeah.
So that's the bottom line I think we have to consider when looking at how celebrities are treated. Look, they're people. We're all people. We need to treat each other kindly, you know? And you, as the person who has this platform, think about how you can use it productively.
Yeah.
That's really all you can ask. And like you
Hmm.
said, it's the team, and I mentioned the design of your team, because we
Hmm.
all need help from other
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
in our careers, in our families,
Hmm.
with our friends. We help each other all the time.
Hmm.
So that sort of design, right?
Hmm.
Uh, I think is extremely important as to how we can move ideas forward, you know?
Yeah.
I'm it's really fascinating just thinking about design because like art, like it is art, and art is in everything. And
Yeah. Yeah.
design is in everything. Design, like the design of the universe, the design
Right.
of the earth, the design of animals, the human design, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
That's a good question. Just like thinking about what does that mean?
Yeah.
What is design? What is design advocacy?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I
Hmm.
will say real quick, something I hadn't really thought of, but you sparked this thought in my head. So this might be my takeaway for today
Okay.
is I always felt like all art is political, whether it's intentionally trying to be political or not. I do feel like all art is political. So yeah, I hadn't really thought about the fact, well, then any celebrity who's within the realm of art, who is an artist, visual actor, then yeah, there should be this kind of written, maybe it's unwritten, but there should be this expectation of like, okay, this is part of your job, is that
Mm,
shit's gonna get political. When the more
mm,
famous you get, the more you're going to be expected to participate in this sphere, this political
mm,
sphere, like more
mm,
intentionally, I should say. So that's something I hadn't really thought about.
mm,
Yeah.
mm. Yeah. So with this design advocacy collection that we have going on, pulling from what we have discussed, specifically language, text,
Mhm. Mhm.
visual arts, graphic design. I'm thinking about people who have utilized graphic design for
Mhm.
artivism.
Mhm.
And I am very excited about the continuation of this conversation
Uh-huh.
to discuss the use of graphic design for design advocacy.
Mhm.
Um, because it's so many artists, so many visual artists who use it to
Mhm.
get political points across. And I wonder how they have measured the impact
Mm, mhm.
of that medium
Mhm.
to get this political point across.
Mhm.
And I wonder if they've used other mediums and determined that graphic design, language, direct language is the best route to go to get their point across or to support different political, social, political, cultural ideologies.
Yeah. I think kind of going back to what you were saying before, it might not always be the best tactic, but that's the way they can contribute. That's the
Mhm.
way they know how to contribute. And, and yeah, like I'm thinking a lot right now about Guerrilla Girls, that big billboard they did.
Mhm.
How many, what is it? How many
Women
naked women?
artists, what?
Do women
Yeah.
have to be naked to get into the Met Museum? That was it. That was it. Do women have to be naked to get into the Met Museum? And that awesome yellow, pink, high contrast poster with that big font, and then you have this naked white woman, and I can't remember which famous painting that she's taken from. I feel bad. It's a very famous painting. And then she's got this gorilla head on, right?
Mhm.
Listeners, if you don't know who the Gorilla Girls are, this is a really great example, in my opinion, of design advocacy. Go look this image up, go look this group up. But yeah, you could measure their success by how many billboards did they do? How many buses did they have their poster on? When they would have exhibits, whether they were outdoor or indoor, how many people came to those exhibits? But that's just like a number. I'm wondering, how do you measure the conversations? Again, it's like when you leave that space,
The
then
follow
what
through.
action are the viewers taking? Are
Mhm.
they actually engaging in conversation? So you could measure, for example, how many articles were published relating to this. So how many at least journalists paid attention, right? And then continued spreading that word. So it's very hard to measure
Mhm.
that success. But yeah, I think if there's conversations happening, which could even be like, hey, Met Museum, why don't we bring the girls in to have like a talk with them, a public talk, a sharing, right? That's, those events as another way to measure. But ultimately, did it change the demographic of artists in
Mm.
the Met Museum? That is the ultimate like measurement, right? After that, these posters and billboards, did anything change? I don't really
Yeah.
know. It
That's the
doesn't.
that's the question that's always posed about art in general, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
what do you do that's going to affect legislation or company policies? And
Hmm.
it's annoying actually. And that question of measuring the impact, and this is why I brought it up because I just know I'm annoyed by it. Because unfortunately, we're not taught to understand that, the impact of art is not something that you're going to see immediately always. That's
No.
something that you're going to see always. It can be
Yeah.
mental affect, right? How we begin to think and how we change our thinking. The
Hmm.
legislative element, yes, you might not see a policy directly impacted by this visual artwork. However, that visual artwork could have influenced a lobbyist who decided to go to the Capitol every day to lobby whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is so
Mm-hmm.
that this can change legislation, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I feel like in the United States of America, we are not taught that from, you know, our education from K through high school about the impact, that type of impact that you can't see that is extremely important, the spiritual, right? The mental, right? Like this holistic approach. If we were taught that, then I think we would have a better understanding and be able to utilize that impact and be able to move forward with more effectiveness and change, because we know, okay, this is important. Art is important as part of our social dynamics. It is important as part of our cultural practices. It is important as part of our governing systems, because it is that sort of impact that impacts everything and that you might not be able to see, but can actually change, and it'll be a wave and it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And that wave will get to you and you'll be like, oh, well, how did this happen? And you might not be able to track where the wave came from.
Mm-hmm.
However, if we were to talk to the person who started the wave and they're like, you know what, I saw that Guerrilla Girls work and I just knew I had to change how I thought about women's roles in society.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard because art education, as we know, is not important. Is art programs, as we know, have been gutted across
Mm-hmm.
the board in the United
Yep.
States. But then
Yep.
you have people like artivists and teachers who are like, oh, we're going to do these activities to bring art back in, even if we're not in the school, after school programs or community
Mm-hmm.
organizations that are doing that to put those things back into the school, because I think in general the public knows this is important,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm. Which
yeah.
actually, I mean, I'm probably not going to have time to talk about it, but I do think graphic design, I see a lot more young people engaging in it. Do see a lot of young people engaging in AI also, which is like a whole other thing.
Yep,
But
let's
maybe that should be the next talk later in the spring. Next collection is like, who's making AI art?
how do you feel about AI?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's leave that right there. Let's table
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
But yeah, I think graphic design, like, man, it blows my mind sometimes what my kids can come up with and what they can make. I was like, and they're doing it through like just, these simple apps, which the apps are doing a lot of the work for them, you know.
Mhm.
Um, it's interesting. Like I've been really inspired lately by collages. And I've been
Mm,
thinking about doing more collage stuff with my
mhm,
students, even though I'm
mhm,
not a visual artist. I'm like, I want to do more collage stuff because I want to shut all these computers and I want them to learn how to take images with their hands and put them
mhm.
together,
Yeah.
as opposed to taking images on a computer and putting it together and having all these apps that put it together so nicely for you, you know?
Mhm.
So that's something I've been thinking about exploring more. But yeah, I'm tangenting a lot today from design advocacy. But
Yeah.
again, we decided design advocacy is like interdisciplinary, can like really be everything almost.
It's the right,
Yeah.
right. So this is
Yeah.
so, we are going to, start to wind down. And
Hmm.
before we go, we would like to pose a question to ourselves. So this is something that we are definitely taking from uh, our past episodes and bringing it back into this new format. So
That's my Wayne World's impression.
so yeah, here we are.
Awesome. In your utopia, there would be dot, dot, dot. You want to go first, Janet? For our checkout
Why?
question.
Why
And
me?
you don't have to. I can go first if you want.
Oh no. Oh no. In my utopia, there would be, this off the top of my head, there would be education on how to
Mm.
practice empathy.
Mm,
I'm just giving one thing right now
okay.
because we might do this again, right? So
Oh, yeah.
that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah. That's good. I don't think we have enough of that. Yeah. In my utopia, there would be critical thinkers, but the love and hope would outweigh the negative critique and fear. Yeah. There'd be more hope and more love.
Mm.
Yeah. And empathy. Yeah. You need empathy for hope and love.
More hope
Yeah.
and more love.
And more belief in the vision. More envisioning and more belief in making it happen.
Mm.
You know?
Mm. All right.
All right. So, to conclude today's episode, we do like to remind our listeners that this podcast is completely funded by the two of us and your donations. So, if you would like to help keep our podcast going, you can make a donation with us through our PayPal link in the show notes to this episode. And we really hope that you come back for our part 2 of Design Advocacy Collection. In our next episode, we're actually going to be interviewing Greg Bumbury, who's a graphic designer, consultant, and lecturer, and super inspiring. I'm really excited for him to answer all these questions we have.
Yes, we have tons of questions. He will answer all of them.
Yeah, all of them. Maybe in a part 5 and 6 as well.
Yeah, I'm ready for that. So,
Great.
all right.
Well, thank you, Janet. Thank you for this time. I'm feeling a little inspired. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. And I am
Great.
looking forward to having you all back with us for part 2 of the Design Advocacy Collection. All right.
Oh, right. What's the date of that?
Oh, the
I didn't say
date.
the date.
Yeah, the date. The date is Saturday, October 19th at 1 p.m. ET. Saturday, I'm sorry, not October 19th.
I
Today
was gonna
is
say that's
October 19th.
today.
Oh my gosh. The date is actually Saturday, November 2nd. I'm sorry.
That's right.
Saturday,
Saturday,
November
November
2nd at 1
2nd.
p.m. All right. 1 p.m. ET, Saturday, November 2nd.
So
Share
2
this with
weeks.
your folks. All right.
Please share, spread the love. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe, man.
Yes. And like and
And
love.
like.
All
And
right.
love.
So peace. Thank you, Danny. Thank you,
Love
y'all.
you.